Hey everyone, this is Steve from Fast Product Photography Services. If you need any pictures taken for your Amazon page or really anything e-commerce, come visit us in the link in the description. Thanks. Okay everyone, so today we're going to learn about creating shapes in Photoshop. It's very simple and it's very basic, but we're going to go through just some of the fundamental parts of it, and by the end of it you should have a pretty good handle on creating different shapes and going throughout the process. So what we have right now is just a blank white canvas, and let's put a couple different shapes on here and we'll move them around, we'll change the colors, we'll edit the borders. We'll just go through a couple things like that, and you should have a pretty good handle on it by the end of this video. So go right over here to the side where you see the rectangle looking shape, and if you right click on that icon, you can see that there's a couple different options that come up when you select that. And for the first one, we're just going to stick with the rectangle tool, and we're going to go right into the middle here and just click, hold, and drag it to whichever shape you want. Now, something to note while I'm still holding this is if you click and hold Shift on the keyboard, you're going to get a perfect square no matter where you go. So that's just something to keep in mind. So I will hold Shift, and there we go. We got ourselves a perfect square. Release it. And so now what we have is we have a shape with a fill, and that's what the white color is, and the blue border is the stroke. And you'll see these up here. You've got your fill and you've got your stroke. So what we want to do, if we want to change the color of this square, we're going to go up and left click on the fill button. And right now we're set to solid color. So we have the option of doing transparent, and I'll show you this. So if we do, let's add in a different colored background just for demonstration purposes. Okay, so right now, oh, sorry. If we make this colored white, you can see that it's filled with white. If we click on the transparent one, you can see that it's now the color of the background because it is invisible and you see right through it, and there's just the border. So let's go ahead and let's change this to red. Okay, so now we can go over to the border and let's change the color of the border to yellow. Now, these are just the ones that are recently used by me. You can also go down to the drop selections here, and there's a bunch of different choices, and these are just common ones used by people. Or you can go up to the right here and click on this, and you can just custom select whichever color you'd like. So we're going to go with that gold one. Why not? And let's just click out of that and let's just hit enter. So there's our finished product. Okay, now the interesting part about this is you have your product, and what we want to know now is how do we change the colors if we want to do that. So let's go back over here. Let's click on our shape, and then let's make sure that this is selected, because if we have something else selected, for example, we're not going to be able to edit it. As you see, the color choices up there go away. So we're selected on the rectangle, it's highlighted. Let's click on the shape, and now we can change the color. So let's go in here and change it to orange. Okay, so something also to note about this is we have the thickness of this border. And if I want to zoom in on the shape, I'm going to click and hold Alt on the keyboard, and then I can scroll in with the mouse to see the thickness of my border. So if I want to change the thickness of that border, I can just go up to where it says the different pixels next to the stroke, and I can change the different thickness based on that wheel. So let's just leave it thick for right now. Now, something also interesting about this is if we just zoom out a little bit, we can also change the pattern of the border, and that is done within this drop-down menu. So right now we have it just on a solid line. If we want to make it a dashed line, look at that. Now we have a dashed border. And the thing about the dashed border is that it doesn't automatically populate perfectly. You have to adjust the stroke thickness in order to make it look right. And I'll show you what I'm talking about here. Let's go up to the stroke thickness, and let's just move this over. And you see how that's changing? And There it looks a little bit more normal. Probably not perfect, but we're just going to leave it as that. You could also go in and do the dots, which looks nice. And let's just hit enter. Okay, so that's what we have right now. You can see how in this corner, for example, the dots, they're not lined up well, and there it's not lined up well. That's where you have to go and change the stroke thickness until you get it exactly how you want it to be. So let's also go in here and look at some more colors. Let's left click on orange, because what we have been doing is selecting solid colors in this one. Let's go over here to where you can do gradient colors. Okay, so now you have drop-down choices of different colors. Let's go for a pink one. Why not? And you can scroll down, and there you go. Now you see you've got this different gradient here. Let's go for one that's a little bit more dramatic. There you go. Okay, so now when you have these gradients, you can go in here and you can actually change the angle of the gradient, which is fun to do. You can also change the different pattern of it. There's your radial. If you want to reverse the colors, for example, we have white in the middle, pink on the outside, you can just click this button here and it reverses it, and that looks kind of cool. Now, something also to note, and this is going to be getting a little bit advanced for this video, is we've got our two choices of colors here, right? If you just click and drag this one over, you're going to get more of that color. Okay, if you want to change that color, double click on that box and let's make it blue. Hit OK, and now you have a completely different color. And if you wanted to actually add another color, you can click on it there. It'll open this up and just click there. And now you've got a third color that you can edit, which makes things very interesting. Let's make this a little wild. We're going to go for like an orangey color. Okay, okay. And now look at all these crazy colors that we've got going on here. And so you can mess around with this sort of stuff, or you can also go up into here where you have different patterns. And these are going to be pre-populated. You can download different ones, and it'll give you all kinds of different choices for what you might want to use. And so there's all kinds of fun things that you can do with shapes. And if you want to change the size of the shape, all you have to do is hit Control T. And now you'll see how it's highlighted. You can grab a corner and you can change the shape completely. Or I mean, you can change the size completely. Hit Enter, and your shape is now a different size. So if we wanted to do something different, we could go back over to the shape, right-hand click, and let's do an ellipse or a circle. Same thing. If you hold it and drag it, you see how we've got ourselves an oval there. Hit Shift, move it a little bit, and you've got yourself a perfect circle. So let's go through and let's edit. Let's change this back to a solid border. Let's change the thickness of the border to be a little bit less. Let's change the color of the border to be red. And let's change the fill to be a solid orange. Okay, let's hit Enter. And there you go. So you've got a shape on top of another shape. And again, I'll show you just an example. So if we go back up to the fill and we make it transparent, you can see how it's just now just a border of a circle. And you can also do that with the stroke if you want to have a crisp edge. So let's make the fill orange again. Now let's make the stroke transparent. And now you've just got a crisp circle. And there are, of course, other things that you can do to the shapes as far as like warping them, distorting them, changing the perspective, creating shadows. There's all kinds of other things which I will actually cover in another video. But for now, I think it's important just to look at the shapes in general. So two important notes to remember when we just ending this video is if you hit V on the keyboard, you can now select and move your shapes around. And if you hit Control T, you can then change the size, or you can also move it around more as well. Hit Enter, and you have your shape there. Now, when you hit Control T, it's automatically going to select the shape that you have currently selected. So if I go and hit the rectangle layer and hit Control T, now that one's going to be selected. Hit Enter, and if you haven't had any exposure to layers to this point, all that you have to do if you want to make the orange one below the square is just move that layer below the rectangle layer, and now that one's on top of it. If you want to change the opacity of these, let's make the rectangle a little bit transparent. Just go up to opacity and move this down a little bit, and now you can see how it's even becoming a little bit transparent. So there's a whole lot of fun things that you can do with shapes, and we probably got a little bit extracurricular here as far as things you can do with shapes, but it's the basics of shapes is very simple. I will continue to do some more features with shapes in another video, but for now, I hope you enjoyed this video and thank you for watching.